Hello and welcome to yet another Top 5 here on MacGuffinPodcast.com. You're Brandi.
And you're John.
And today we're going to be talking about Top 5 ghost films. Very spooky. Honestly, ghost movies aren't my favorite, but there are a lot of very good ones. One thing that kind of throws me for a loop is they make their own rules a lot of the time. So if a ghost is your antagonist in a movie, kind of you're screwed no matter what, and the filmmakers are going to make up that the ghost can do whatever it wants no matter what. So
I can see that.
But
it's more about the atmosphere for me, and I should say that we stuck to the horror side of this and not so much like there's a lot of weird romance films
that involve ghosts.
Some are good, some are terrible, that involve, you know, the ghost of a former lover or whatever. That's not what we're talking about here. So
all right, so I guess I'll start it off with my number 5, and that is The Changeling from 1980.
Okay.
Not the Clint Eastwood movie from a few years ago. This stars George C. Scott, and he is a musician who lost his family in a horrible car accident, and he moves to Seattle. What? And he moves into this old mansion that happens to be haunted. This is a very freaky movie. If you're looking at lists online or just people talking about underrated horror movies, if they've seen it, usually they're talking about it. Just so much great atmosphere, not about shock scenes, not about gore. Especially surprising since it came out in like the Friday the 13th era. Very rare for an 80s film. But I just think it's awesome. It's just so spooky. There's a whole thing involving like a ghost of a kid and a ball that bounces down some stairs that you'll kind of be freaked out if you see a bouncy ball. Yeah. No, honestly. Like that's how creepy it is.
All right, well, I guess I'll have to check it out because I admit I've never seen it. So. All right.
Sorry. In the Region 2 DVD has a commentary we don't get in Region 1. Got to throw out lame factoids like that.
Okay. Okay, my number 5 is a movie that I actually haven't seen in a while, but
it's a movie I've never seen before.
No, when we talked about doing this topic, it instantly popped in my head, and I just had such an urge to watch it again, and that is Peter Jackson's The Frighteners.
Ooh, that's a good movie.
Which I think is just like a really fun ghost chasing kind of film. You know, Michael J. Fox usually elevates anything that he's in. And
I'd say besides Marty McFly, that's probably the best character he played on film. I love him in The Frighteners. He brings so much depth to that role, which usually you don't expect from the comedic Michael J. Fox.
Right, and it's just a solid, fun film that kind of like gives you a few legitimate sort of startling moments with the ghosts, but also has fun with what it's doing at the same time.
Exactly. It's just a good ride. It's not about just scaring you. It's not about just telling a good story or interesting characters. It's all of that wrapped up. I have to say Jeffrey Combs is amazing in that movie. Like rivals his Herbert West performances. He's an FBI agent, right? Or something akin to that. But he's really fucked up after years of being involved in cults and things like that. Awesome performance.
It's super fun. Like if you've never given it a chance because it sounds kind of dumb, I recommend watching it.
Really good.
Yeah.
My number 4 sort of ties in with the ghost romance thing you were talking about, and that is the ghost rape movie, The Entity.
Oh. Okay.
And all I'm going to do is laugh for a minute.
Awkward moment.
So this is another
Tell me more.
80s ghost movie that, you know, just did it really well. This was a movie I threw out in my top 5 underrated horror movies Spencer and I were talking about last October. And it's just such a horrifying idea. I mean, a ghost in your house late at night, that's freaky. A ghost raping you? I mean, holy shit. There's not many things I would want less except for maybe like an alien or Bigfoot raping me. But come on.
Are you asking me what my opinion is about what I would least like to rape?
Can you at least say that it's a scary premise for a movie?
Yes.
Okay, prepared to be horrified. It's based on a true story. And
a schizophrenic who thinks that she's being raped by a ghost.
Barbara Hershey gives a great performance. There's some really good special effects by Stan Winston where you see the ghost like interacting with flesh. Really scary. Unfortunately, the DVD's out of print, but it has been streaming on Netflix recently. If you want to buy it, which I definitely recommend, you're going to be paying like $50 for the disc.
Another day. All right. Well, my number 4 is a film that I really like because it mostly just relies on atmosphere, and it does have a little bit of a twist that comes with it, but I feel like that's just a bonus because it was already good before that, and that is the Nicole Kidman starring film The Others.
Yeah, The
which I
Other is
think
a very good film.
A really good movie. It definitely is one of those ones where going into it, I didn't really know what to expect. I saw it in the theater when it came out, and I hadn't read too much about it except for like, oh, whatever, it's a ghost story. And it goes to places that you don't really expect. I guess probably everyone knows what the twist is already.
I don't know if many people have seen it.
I feel like people should see it. If you haven't seen it already because you're like, oh, I'm not that much of a Nicole Kidman fan, or oh, whatever, it doesn't sound that exciting. It draws you in like very slowly, but you're in there, and you really care about what's going to happen to her and her kids.
Exactly.
And what does happen to them is not what you expect if you haven't seen the film. Or
totally. It's one of those things where, if you know there's a twist ending, sometimes you'll be looking for it. I knew there was a twist to the others. I was looking for it. I didn't find it. And the ending you get is so, like, just, it's heartbreaking and awesome. And
I think it takes a ghost story more seriously than most films do.
Yeah, you're right about that. Moving on, my number 3 is a recent hit from 2009, Paranormal Activity. I have to say, this is one film where afterwards I was freaked out for a few days. Not like, oh my God, I can't function in society because it scared me so bad. But like, I would lay in my bed and I would kind of look and be like, what if a ghost was standing out there? Man, fuck you, Paranormal Activity. And I talked to quite a few people who I was like rushing out, like, you have to see the advanced midnight showing with me. Come on, come on. And they were like, why'd you do that? I haven't slept because you made me watch that movie.
I'd say 2 things. Number 1, this was on my list of movies I'll never watch again when we did top 5 because of that very reason, like being so fucking scared. And number 2, is it really a ghost? Isn't it a demon?
Ooh, you know what? I'm Mr. Persnickety and you might have pulled one over on me. Okay. You're right. To be fair, it is a demon, but it is the tropes of the ghost film.
Movie, yes.
It might as well be a ghost. And actually, it's a spiritual successor to The Entity because honestly, it's the less graphic version of the same story. It's a supernatural entity in love with the girl, fucking up her life.
True. All right. My number 3 is a throwback movie to the 40s. I think this came out in 1944. It's one of those movies that was one of the first scary films I ever watched as a kid, and so it stuck around with me, and that is The Uninvited, which is about, I'm still a sucker for movies or books or anything where it's like, the big old house on the moors that may or may not be haunted, blah, blah, blah. And this is one that just, it hits every beat. It's like candles going out. The dog doesn't want to go into that room, like blah, blah, blah. Like there might be an old story that we're paying no mind to, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, it's a super fun, solid, actually legitimately pretty creepy movie from that era, which wasn't nearly as big on horror things as decades to come, at least not for studio films that you can still readily find, which this is one of.
Yeah, actually, that movie's interesting. I haven't watched it, but it's been brought to my attention because it's actually never been released on disc. So if you want to see it, you have to get the VHS.
I think one of the reasons I've seen it is because they tend to show it on Turner Classic Movies every October.
Oh, okay, like part of Monster
so
Fest.
I definitely saw it every Halloween as a kid.
So interested in checking that out. Glad for your recommendation. Yes. Moving on, my number 2 is once again from the 80s. I'm kind of noticing that. I guess the 80s had a lot of ghost stuff going on.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, exactly. I just tend, when I think of horror in the 80s, slashers tend to overpower everything else, but there were a lot of other things going on. And this movie is Poltergeist, Tobe Hooper's film, produced and written by Steven Spielberg. And
I knew this one would be in your list. So
yeah, it's such a good movie. So freaky, and one of the things that the best ghost movies do, I think we've seen from this list, is they play it subtle. Poltergeist is able to straddle that line of, it does have the over-the-top effect sequences, but it still manages to be creepy because it's more about like, are we really seeing this when the guy like rips his face off, stuff like that. I'm thinking of the monsters when you finally see them at the end. It's kind of like the payoff to the subtle creepiness of before. But yeah, so many things about the movie. Zelda Rubinstein is just like iconic in that role.
Absolutely.
The clown. I mean, for a movie that it's about a ghost, so many people think it's about like this killer clown doll. That's the thing everyone remembers. Like, holy shit, Poltergeist, that clown fucked me up, And it's a scary clown, but it's only one scene. Like, that's how many good things are going on in Poltergeist. One scene can be all you remember from it. So yeah,
it's great. It's a great movie. My number 2 goes along with that same thing, talking about being very subtle with the ghost story part of it, because I would say half the reason that the film is so affecting has absolutely nothing to do with ghosts. They just kind of like happen to be there while something more horrifying is going on, and that's The Orphanage.
Love The Orphanage. Great movie.
Such a good movie. But really, like, the fact that there are ghosts there is the least of her problems.
Yeah.
Honestly, dealing with her missing son, very heartbreaking and creepy film, and it puts you so well into the mindset of its main character and what she's going through, and she's wondering whether or not she's even crazy, and you kind of don't really know what's real or what's not until the end. You can sort of decide for yourself, and I just think it's a super solid film that plays with that genre in a way that some other films haven't really done, in a very serious, emotional way.
Yeah, I really love that film. One funny anecdote, I saw that movie the same weekend as There Will Be Blood, and I told everyone that The Orphanage was the better movie, and everyone thought I was insane. So
I would agree with you on that, actually. So that's not even a slam on There Will Be Blood.
No, exactly. I liked them both, but The Orphanage was so good.
It hits me emotionally in a way that There Will Be Blood just doesn't even try to do. So.
And my number one is going a little bit of a different route with the ghosts, but I mean, come on. What wouldn't be number one except for Ghostbusters?
Maybe what my number one's going to be. You don't know.
Oh, we'll see. I have a feeling you're wrong, though, because Ghostbusters is where it's at. I mean, it's just such an awesome movie. There's nothing bad about it. Every performer is hilarious. All the jokes are funny. I don't know, even like the little bit parts of people who are mainly supposedly the straight characters, like Annie Potts is so hilarious as Janine.
Yeah.
You know, Rick Moranis as Louis Tully is one of the funniest parts of the movie.
Yeah.
It's just so many good things. I saw this movie at Cinerama. They were doing like 70 millimeter showing version of it when they would show old movies. And at the end of it, I was like tearing up because it was such a great movie. They just don't make movies like that. Like at the end when they're like, you know, see you on the other side, like they might be killing themselves. I was like, fucking, it's so good. Like I was so happy to just be there, and the house was packed and everyone was just feeling Ghostbusters. Such an amazing film. If you haven't watched it in a long time, like, do yourself a favor, watch it, get all your friends together.
And that's a fun idea too, to try and see a film. I bet they show it at like Central Cinema or whatever sometimes too. So, okay, well my number one kind of fits into that same theme, where it's like an 80s film that's a lot of fun, but it still takes the idea of ghosts a little bit seriously, and that is Beetlejuice, which I love. I love Beetlejuice.
I guess, audience, you can decide. Beetlejuice versus Ghostbusters.
I like the way... I didn't say Ghostbusters was bad.
But if Beetlejuice is your number one,
well,
they have to fight.
Okay. I don't feel that way. But I would like to say that one of my favorite things about Beetlejuice is the way that it just... takes things from the perspectives of the people who are the ghosts.
Yeah.
And they are so sort of like, man, this sucks about it. And then it's like, all right. And then they just move on and they start fucking with people even more. It just takes, like, none of the turns that Beetlejuice takes are predictable at all. And, I mean, now it's become a movie where, like, you've probably seen it a million times and you've forgotten that. But really, it is zany and crazy in ways that a lot of movies nowadays you don't really see. Like, I don't know. I think it's brilliant. I think it's hysterical. I think it's legitimately creepy in parts, and there's beautiful bits of satire in there as well. Like, it's a very good film.
Yeah, still one of Tim Burton's best.
Effects.
And I think Michael Keaton missed out on a very lucrative comedy career. He did Batman right after that and kind of stopped being the comedy leading man. Beetlejuice just showed how insane and awesome he could get.
Oh, it's great. It's great stuff.
Yep. So there you have our top 5 ghost films. Let us know what you think at MacGuffinPodcast.com. What do you specifically consider a ghost movie? What do you think of the films we talked about? And what would you recommend for us? Yeah.
Yes. Do that.
Way to wrap it up, Brandi.